Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. Sometimes I see posts on Facebook from friends that refer to events in the past that I heard about at the time or knew about and had forgotten about, and just are prompted to start reminding myself, going back, Googling it, and just reminding myself what it was that went on then. And that happened in this last week. A friend of mine had a German friend of mine had a post up that mentioned Hans Dietrich Genscher and the part that he played during the Black September attack at the 1972 Munich Olympics. I thought, yeah, there's a name I haven't heard in a long time. So I sort of looked back and reminded myself of what happened back then. And basically, Hans Dietrich Genscher was a prominent German politician in West Germany. He's known as the architect of the reunification of Germany. He served in many of the top positions, including Vice Chancellor, and he was the Minister of the Interior in 1972 when the Olympics were being held in Munich. Now, it might seem hard for us to remember, but we're going back 51 years here. And so in 1972, there were an awful lot of people alive who still remembered the Second World War. And so to have the Olympics taking place in Germany, following on from the, brought memories back of Hitler and the Berlin Olympics in 36. And so there was a lot of tension, a lot of bad memories. People wanting to sort of say, look, this is the new Germany. We've moved on so much since then. And then these Palestinian terrorists, the Black September group, infiltrated the Olympic Village and killed 2 Israeli athletes and took 9 others as hostages. And Hans Dietrich Genscher, as the Minister of the Interior, negotiated with the terrorists. He went in, he actually met them, and he offered himself to take the place of the Israeli athletes. He said, if you will let them go, take me and do what you want with me. The gunmen turned that down. Now, he made mistakes, there's no doubt about it. He failed, when he was in negotiating with them, he didn't count. He failed to make a count of how many gunmen there were. And that was absolutely crucial, because later on, when it became apparent that negotiations weren't going to work, and the West German special forces basically stormed the terrorists and that and tried to take them out, they only had 5 snipers when they should have had 8, because there were 8 of the terrorists, and it suggested that Genscher, by not counting the numbers, contributed to that error. As it was, all the hostages were killed. A West German policeman was killed during this whole thing, and 5 of the terrorists were killed, but 3 of them were survived. And Genscher was also involved later on whenever more hijackings were taking place. It's hard to remember now, but back then I remember, like, I was only 10 years old when this was all going on. And I can remember how seemed like all the time in the news, there was hijackings. The only time as a kid I heard about aeroplanes was people when they were getting hijacked. And they even hijacked a cruise liner. And what happened was there was another hijacking of a Lufthansa flight, and as part of the negotiations and all, the 3 surviving terrorists were released. They ended up back in Libya, where they got a hero's welcome, and it was extremely traumatic for everybody concerned. Now, Genscher certainly made some mistakes, but he went on to continue to serve his country. And as I say, he was instrumental in negotiating an end to the Iron Curtain, and seeing refugees as well, particularly that were fleeing from Poland and places like that, being able to cross over into West Germany. And a situation that could have resulted in a lot of bloodshed, he was able to negotiate and bring a much better result out of that. Now, undoubtedly, he was a politician. And he was a very pragmatic politician. He worked on compromises and everything else. And no doubt, if we look back at his record, there could be things that we see that he did wrong and things that we would greatly disagree with. But what really struck me today was remembering that he offered himself up as a hostage in place of those Israeli athletes. And that in itself showed how much Germany had changed over the years. That a nation that had been so involved in the oppression and the genocide of the Jewish people, that one of their leading politicians would say, take me, and if you have to, kill me, rather than these Israeli athletes. Now, the offer was turned down, but that he made the offer at all was truly remarkable. And I'll be honest with you, I look at most politicians today, and we look at how most politicians today that we see, whether we're talking Ireland, whether we're talking UK, certainly United States, it's all about themselves. It's all about their image. It's all about how they look and how things affect them. And yet here you have this prominent politician saying, take me, I'm prepared to lay down my life so some citizens of another country can be released and their lives can be spared. And I seriously question how many politicians today would be prepared to offer their life in that way. No doubt this came from Genscher's own Catholic faith, that because, as we've just celebrated Easter, that our faith as Christians, both evangelicals, Catholics and others, is based on the fact that Jesus gave his life so that we might go free. I thank God for that today. I thank God that there have been politicians such as Hans-Dietrich Genscher, which despite some maybe failings in other areas, still understood the principle of laying down his life for others. And I pray that God will raise up leaders of a similar caliber that would serve our world better and maybe help make our nations better nations as well. We can pray for such leaders to arise. God bless you today. Join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.